Okay, so we'll start. I'm not the interesting bit anyway. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to Quercus's Word of Mouth Bestsellers Evenings. And thank you so much for joining us. We're very deep into this pandemic, and I think a lot of us have got Zoom fatigue. We were discussing it earlier. So the fact that so many of you have shaken that off and joined us this evening means the absolute world to us. As I should say, does every tweet, like, share, post, review, from you supporting our books and our authors. You make a genuine difference to them and to us. So it's a good moment for me to say thank you very much. So speaking of books and authors, we've got some crackers for you tonight. I hope you're going to love them as much as we do. We would, of course, love you to share any of the books that you've fallen for far and wide across the socials. But there is one exception to that, which is Bonnie Wright's book. That isn't officially announced until Friday. So it's a bit of an exclusive for you guys tonight, but please keep what you hear tonight about the book under wraps until the weekend. So Bonnie has a chance herself to announce it. Tonight will be a combination of interviews with our authors, and we've also got some messages from other authors popping up as well, so keep an eye out from that. But before we get going, I just want to say one thing to you all, which is Beth O'Leary proofs. We know that many of you are big fans of hers, and you will have seen that we have got new proofs in for her book, The No Show. They're hot off the press. It's a really limited run, so we haven't got very many available, but we have got 3 copies up for grabs this evening. So excited about this book. I'll tell you a bit more about it later on, but stay tuned until the end of tonight's event for an opportunity to get your hands on a proof. So without further ado, we're kicking off with a reading from Victoria Salman, who is the author of the brilliant Truly, Darkly, Deeply, which is out in July next year. Over to you, Victoria.
Hello, I'm Victoria Salman, the author of Truly, Darkly, Deeply, which I'm thrilled is coming out with Quercus this July. It's a story I wrote during lockdown while homeschooling my 2 children. Multiple murder being a welcome break from endless snack making and questions about equivalent fractions. It taps into my fascination with true crime and the criminal psyche, although what intrigues me just as much as the psychology of evil is how serialists are able to dupe those close to them, that it's possible to share your home with one without suspecting it. How would finding out that you have done affect a person? How would you ever live with the guilt? I'd love to read you a section from the opening of the book. It's a letter to my protagonist, Sophie. Sophie, there's so much to tell you. I don't know where to start. The kite, maybe. It's not the beginning exactly, but I suppose it's as good a place as any. You watched it transfixed, your nose pressed up to the glass as it circled, a black shadow creeping across the lawn. Flying on the spot, you said, the way you like to dance. There are kites in Massachusetts, but you'd never seen one before. Or maybe you just didn't remember. You were so small when you moved to London. Certainly you never expected to see one here. They get pigeons in the capital, sparrows, the occasional robin. Birds of prey, not so much. What's it doing? Your mother mused. Lost, maybe. Poor thing. It's hunting, you said, and you were right. The sparrow was hopping about in the fallen leaves on the trampoline, didn't see it coming, didn't stand a chance. The kite didn't swoop so much as drop out of the sky, snaring its victim, pulling it apart, right where you practiced your tuck jumps. Your awe turned to horror, gripping you the way the kite gripped its prey. Sated, the killer returned to the clouds, leaving behind only the sparrow's legs, spat out and discarded on the muddy, leaf-strewn canvas. An avian crime scene. I think of it often, an omen for the darkness readying to descend into our lives, for the wreckage that would follow, for the incomprehensibility of it all. You cried, nose running, choking on your tears. It'll be okay. There's nothing to be afraid of, your mother told you. She lied, Sophie. You had every reason to be afraid. And it was not all going to be okay.
Thank you, Victoria. I can promise you that the rest of the book is as good as that fantastic reading. So next up for you, I'd like to introduce you to one of our very talented debut authors, Nalongay, who, I mean, he is very talented. He's also a lawyer as well as being an author. And his debut novel, A Good Day to Die, is an absolute rip-roarer of a first book. He's going to be chatting to Adam Hamdi, who's a Sunday Times best-selling British novelist, screenwriter and film producer. He's also one of the co-founders of Capital Crime. So Eamon and Adam, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, Eamon. I am up late in Mauritius, and I'd only do this for Eamon's book because it's an absolute cracker, A Good Day to Die. So, you know, it just got me from the very first page, and I just thought the characters were people I'd met in real life. They're people I'd grown up with in London, people I'd encountered later on in life. I know that you're not originally from London. How on earth did you get such an authentic take on the characters, and like, how did you bring that world to life so well?
I think for, you know, I sort of lived, I wouldn't say nomad life, but, you know, after a period of intense studies, I did engineering in university, I did a master's, and I realized, okay, this is not what I want to do with my life. So for a period there, I sort of, I sort of lived, I did all sorts of things. I hung with all sorts of people, and I just sort of lived. And that experience just, exposed me to all, every sort of variant of people. And I worked at a shop, Abercrombie and Fitch, like back in the day. And in there were people of so many different, ambitions and dreams. And, just that juxtaposition of, you're traveling to work. And most of this came when I used to stay on the bus to work and just going through all sorts of places. And eventually I just decided to stop there, just somewhere you don't know, and just walk around, just, meet people, be as, try and, act as confident as possible, and just walk around and just, just a different life. Because as you said, I'm from Nigeria, and, and without a shadow of a doubt, yes, I'm from Nigeria, but it's a different sort of Nigeria. It's a sort of privileged Nigeria that, so I wasn't really exposed to that sort of, hardship, but, there's hardship everywhere, and just the people that live in that sort of life that are just under the covers everywhere, because, it's London, but London, not London as other people know it, but it's London. So that's what I enjoyed about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that it helped you kind of being an outsider coming into London? Like, do you think that makes you a better observer because you're trying to understand the society you're coming into?
Exactly. I think that's perfectly it. Because, I came when I was 17, and that's fairly mature, but still not mature. And just, wanting to understand people's decisions and people's choices, and, just, everything about it was, I'd been coming a few times on holiday, but, just when you live here, and I guess you don't have your parents to like take you, you have to go here, you have to go to Madison Swords, you're doing your thing. And then, you just, I guess you have an inquisitive mind, us writers, and you just want to know. And that's the thing about me. I just want to know, why is this person here right now? What are the decisions that have made them to come here? And just from there, you can just extrapolate, and you can just have, wild ideas about whoever the person is, what they're doing, and that sort of stuff. So yes, I think the fact that I'm from a different place did help with that.
And so tell me what inspired you to write the book, and why you wanted to bring Pretty Boy to life. Like, what was it that wanted you, what made you want to explore him as a character?
I think more of the sort of things I enjoyed when it comes to books and television shows and stuff was that sort of dark, not, if you look at him from a different perspective, he could be a villain because he is what he is. He's not a particularly good person, but I sort of had this idea, I still do have this idea, even real life, that not everybody is playing bad. You know what I mean? Like, even the people that are villainous, there's some that are villainous, but there's something there. And there's some people that could be in this world and could be trying at every, way to not do the things they have to do. But to survive in the world they are, they have to do those things. And I just sort of thought about it in that way and just thought about, that sort of character. And I think the name Pretty Boy came to me pretty early. You know what I mean? It came to me pretty early because I just thought that's not who you expect. And that's not a name you expect for a character like that. So the fact that he's called that, and you realize he's not called that at any point to his face. And it's not a name that he carries on, but it's a name that has been given to him. And that sort of thing. But he's sort of a noble character. And I like that sort of noble character in the sort of underworld. And no matter how noble you think you are, you're gonna have to do things that people that look from the outside like that's not so noble. So it's that struggle. So that's what I thought.
Well, when I was growing up, my best friend, who'd born on the same day as me, his family were all villains or associated with villains. And so I grew up around a lot of bank robbers and East End villains and that sort of thing. And it's exactly what you were saying. They're not just one-dimensional. They're not just villains. I didn't know they were villains until much later on in life. To me, they were just like aunts and uncles and just, getting along. And someone would disappear and you'd realize they were, 5 years inside for a armed robbery or something. But I'm absolutely fascinated with it's just so hard hitting. Like the book it's had comparisons to The Wire, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all times. And
thank you.
You talked about the books and the TV that you like. Is this who you are as a person? Like, do you you like a bit of violence?
Oh my God.
Do you like the hard times?
Oh my God. I wish I could say that. I don't know, I do, I did compete in Muay Thai and boxing, but I guess that's like, that's licensed, they have rules, so, and even to that level, I wasn't as aggressive as, as one would expect, but I don't think so. And, I guess I'm a lawyer now, so I have to say, I'm not, I'm not violent. I'm absolutely not violent. I'm not that guy. I don't know that guy, but yeah, it's something I enjoy. It's a world I enjoy, and it's, and I think they just go through different stuff than I would, and I put myself in that situation of what would I do in a lot of situations like that. What would I do in that situation? Most of the times I would run off, but then I have the opportunity to run off and go elsewhere. I guess I can run off back to Lagos, but but that sort of thing. And so I guess I would say I want to think I'm as noble as that character, but I don't have the formidability, if that's a word, of him or any of the characters in the book, to be fair.
We have had so many positive comments from people, so thank you very much for that. That's obviously really encouraging that the book sounds so interesting to people, but it's meant that I haven't been able to see from the we've got 3 minutes left. I can see it now. It's on the chat. I don't want to anger the Quercus gods. So I'm going to ask you a personal question, actually, because it just fascinates me. How on earth did you meet your wife on the underground?
Oh,
what happened there?
I know. It's okay. So this is when I was I was in film school. I was just off film school because I went to film school to learn to screenwrite, and I was going for a pitch meeting, and I couldn't decide between two particular characters. And then I was coming from swimming lessons years ago. I'm still I'm getting there. So, I'm coming from swimming lessons, and I'm on the platform when you change the Stratford, and like a lot of people are staring at somebody, but I'm still in my head trying to go through the pitch. And then I look, I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. And then by happenstance, she says I sat beside her intentionally. We sat by each other in the train, and I just asked her, because I couldn't pick between two names. What name do you think, this or that? And she was like, what for? She's like, just answer. And she was like, no, to give me context. So I told her what it was. And then she was like, she was interested. And I was like, oh, you know what? So we spoke about it for a while. She used to be a film student. So I was like, you know what? I would just give me your number and I'll tell you how the meeting goes. Kind of thing. And she did. And I told her, told her how the meeting went. And, so, and then ever since then, I guess, 7, 8 years ago, however long it is, 7, 8, I don't know. I can't remember. So yeah, that was it. Yeah.
This is why no one ever talks to each other on the tube, because you end up married, right?
I know.
That's it. This is the law, right? You end up married.
Exactly.
That is amazing. That is
Thank
amazing. That is brilliant. That just highlights your credentials as a storyteller, because
thank you.
That's some that's some going. So what's next for you? Are you going to continue in the world of Pretty Boy, or are you exploring?
Yes. In my head, the way it's structured, it's like this A Good Day Today, as it says, it's in a day. The second one takes place in a month that has the day in it, and the third one takes place in a year that has the month and a day in it. So a couple characters that don't make it to the end of the first one, no spoilers, they will still show up in the sort of timeline it is, and it's sort of like different levels of crime, because this first one is a bit low level, and the second one is going to be a bit like higher ups, and then the third one is going to be like a different world. So at each book you're moving up to a level of crime, and you're seeing how people in those sort of power positions deal with these everyday situations and whatnot. So that's what I have, and hopefully I finish all 3 books and they do well, and then I have tons of other ideas, and I'm also at a job that finishes at 7 p.m. every day. So we'll see how it goes. You know what I mean? Kind of like, but we'll see how it goes. And I'm loving my life, so no complaints.
No, that's brilliant. Well, I'm, I have to say, absolutely fantastic book, completely compelling, and a very accomplished debut. And I think we're up. So I'm going to say thank you very much, Eamon. It was really, really fun talking to you, and
thank you.
Very best of luck with the book.
Thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sydney Piercy, author of Sustainable Play, 60 plus crafts and games from Earthkind Home. I am a mother of 3, and for the last couple of years I've been making cardboard toys for my daughters and making up games with things from around the home. I began sharing my crafts and games online and reached so many people. There's lots of influencers who have kindly shared, and lots of my community too, who have just really, I guess, all been so enthusiastic about creating sustainably and connecting with our children, slowing down, and yeah, it's really spread far and wide. And so I'm so happy and grateful to have the opportunity to put the best bits, the best crafts, the best games together in this book. The book really is packed full of projects, from costumes to appliances that mimic, real ones, lots of things that you'll find to make your own cardboard kitchen, games for outdoors, for water play, all made from cardboard or from things that you find around the home, without the need to go and invest in lots of fancy art materials. Really just about making magic from everyday objects, connecting with our children, slowing down, finding joy in simple things, and having fun. My daughters and I made one of the crafts this morning, which we're going to share with you. It's from the garden chapter, a cardboard campsite. We really hope that you enjoy it. You'll never need more than 6 materials for each craft. For this one, you need scissors, tape, tissue paper, and 2 sheets of cardboard. We begin by making the tents. That's done by cutting a rectangular strip, folding it up into 3, building a little pyramid and taping across the top to secure. Perfect. And then turn it around the other side, Lil. Cut cap flaps from each side of your tent for windows. There we go. You've got 2 tents there. Now we're making the dining table and chairs. The dining table is a square of cardboard and the chairs are rolled up bits of cardboard. You fold this is to make the camper van. You fold it in 3. Have you folded your one into? You have. Perfect. So that works like that, and then your one that you folded, we're going to put on top, like this, to make the roof. trim the sides of the top of your camper van to create the roof. The roof is made so that you can lift it on and off and put your play people inside. Don't forget to add wheels.
Here you go,
4 circles of cardboard.
Do you know how to do it? Good girl, Willow. Look. Look how I do it. Look how I do it. It's circle, 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 circle. Now you stick it on. This side. Stick to here.
Perfect. Girls. Now cut a door from your camper van. And there, ready to go. Oh, and you can add a skylight too. Now it's time for a shower. We cut out a little shower head from cardboard, fold that into shape, and we stick that between a sort of greeting card folded piece of cardboard with some rolled up tape for a shower cord, little details that make it all very real. Stick that down, and voila, shower ready. Lastly, it's the fire. We've got strips of cardboard firewood and a little donut rolled, and there we go, ready for camp. I hope you've enjoyed this craft. I hope you make it. I hope you love the book. Thank you so much, Quercus. So very exciting. Sustainable play.
Thank you, Sydney. You're a very talented woman, not least because I always watch your videos and think, I could do that. I really can't. So joining us next is the brilliant and hilarious Laura Kaye, who lots of you will know as the author of The Split. Now, she is going to be interviewed by her editor, our very own, very wonderful Emma Kate Bron, as they talk about Laura's new book, Tell Me Everything. It's got my favourite tagline, and I'll read it to you. Identity issues, parental abandonment, fear of commitment. And that's just the therapist. I'm in. So for more on that, over to Laura and Emma.
Hello. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Bethan. Hello, Laura.
Hi, Emma.
Laura and I see each other practically all the time on this format, so we're used to chatting about her books. But I am so thrilled to be able to tell you all a bit more about Laura's second book, Tell Me Everything, today. Well, I'm going to get Laura to tell you about it. So the story opens with Natasha and Georgia celebrating their first year anniversary. However, a couple of years later, we find them living together but broken up. Laura, what inspired you to write this story?
Well, I do know a lot of people who have broken up and carried on living with their exes, and that is always a dynamic that's fascinated me because I don't speak to any of my exes, let alone live with them, so I can't imagine what that would be like. And I also really wanted to explore the idea of a relationship changing rather than ending, and the possibilities that come with that.
I love it. Also, that's so leading. Now, doesn't everyone just want to find out what happens? But this is very much a romantic comedy. There are real moments of poignancy throughout the book as well. With Natasha being a therapist, it's unsurprising perhaps that mental health is front and centre of the novel. Why was it important to you to highlight the issue of trusting in who you are so that you're able to trust in yourself when committing to a relationship?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I actually think this is a theme that I sort of touched upon in The Split as well, my first novel. This idea of knowing yourself so that you don't lose yourself almost, which I think is perhaps quite a common thing, that when you sort of go headfirst into a relationship, you can sort of like lose a part of yourself in the other person. And I think Natasha's journey in this whole story is about making sure that she is a whole person before she's ready to sort of take that step with somebody else.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, I think there's a fair amount of lying about who we are at the beginning of a relationship too. Do we ever really present our real selves? I don't know. In the novel, Natasha is very close to her twin sister, Natalie, which we very much enjoy, the Nats. But she struggles with her relationship with her mother after their father leaves the family, having come out gay. Would it be fair to say, do you think that Natasha perceives blame from her mother for being queer like her father, and that it brings about feelings of shame for her? And if so, what were you trying to portray to your readers through this relationship?
Yeah, I think her relationship with her mother is just incredibly complicated. And I think, as with a lot of difficult things, the people that are closest to us always seem to sort of bear the brunt of those like strongest feelings. And I think Natasha's mother is like somewhat difficult. And then also, I think that it is sometimes the case that things that mothers say to us are taken in a way like extremely personally, in a way that you wouldn't necessarily take the same comment from somebody else. I think she's like a very convenient person for Natasha to sort of pin a lot of things on. They're not close, and it's easy for her not to be close to her, and it's easy for her to explain away their lack of closeness, like through various things. And I think she grows up a lot during sort of the time period in this book, and starts to see things from her mother's perspective, and that perhaps a lot of these things that we pin are not necessarily the case. And I think it's really about a breakdown in communication, as it is with her relationship with almost everybody in the book, which is just obviously incredibly ironic given what she does. But I think it's something that, you know, everyone struggles with.
Yeah, and it's so lovely to see actually how much she grows during the novel. I think it's obvious from these questions thus far that friendship and family dynamics are key to this novel, but also have been a recurring motif in your previous writing as well. Is that important to you to continue with? Do you think that's where you're going to stay true to in your continuing journey as an author?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've talked before about when I think about a new novel, the first thing that comes to me will be a central character. So with writing Tell Me Everything, I had Natasha first. And then the thing that comes most naturally to me is building relationships, like building a world around her and the most key relationships in her life. And I love exploring those, like not just romantic relationships, although there are romantic relationships in the book that are very important, but all kinds of relationships. And like, I love writing familial relationships. Her relationship with her sister was my favorite dynamic to write in the whole book. I think they're so funny together, and they just have that kind of sisterly bond that, you know, is like just a total joy to write. And yeah, definitely, it's I don't think I would be able to write a book without those being central.
I completely agree. I love the sisters angle of this novel. As one of three sisters and brother, I just think you capture it so beautifully. I'm very conscious that we're running out of time, so last question.
Yeah.
As well as being welcomed into the book community with open arms, you've also become something of a spokesperson for the queer community. What has it meant to you to be able to represent queer joy and love in fiction when so little has been seen before? And what have been some of the responses you've received from your adoring fans?
I think the best thing about publishing the first book is hearing from people that have read it and enjoyed it, and that it's meant something to them. And like, I don't know whether this was like naively, or like I was just caught up in the whole thing, and it just hadn't occurred to me that might be a response that I would get. And that I get messages every day from people saying that it made them really happy, and you know, brought a bit of light, and that is just the best thing ever. I love writing about queer joy because there is so much of it, and I am so lucky to be a part of the queer community. It's you know, I'm so grateful to be able to be a part of it and contribute, you know, and yeah, it's the best.
Wonderful. well, I'm getting a very firm time's up message. Thank you so much, Laura. It has been a joy as usual, and everyone, pre-order Tell Me Everything now.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Tia Williams, author of 7 Days in June, coming at you all the way from Brooklyn. Welcome everyone. I am so over the moon by all of the success 7 Days in June has had this year. It was Reese's Book Club's pick of the month in June. It was an instant New York Times bestseller. I'm still pinching myself. It's like everything you dream of as an author. And I'm also really excited about The Perfect Find. Hold. It's going to be a Netflix film coming out in spring of 2022, which I cannot believe, starring Gabrielle Union as Jenna Jones. And it honestly is such a dream come true. And I'm so excited that I get to share this book with you and my stories with you, and I hope you enjoy them.
Thank you so much, Tia. We can't wait to see The Perfect Find on the small screen. So we're now turning to a book that really the whole team fell for on submission, Black Sheep by the amazing Sabrina Pace-Humphreys, who has an insane CV that makes me feel very lazy. She is an award-winning businesswoman, an ultra runner, a social justice activist, and now an author. She's talking to Jessica Morgan, who is a journalist, writer, broadcaster, and the deputy editor of The Face magazine. Jessica and Sabrina, over to you.
Hello, 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 bookworms, book lovers, and now debut author Sabrina. How are we?
I'm good, thank you. I'm just totally overwhelmed to be here and all the imposter syndrome stuff, but yeah, trying to just lap it all up and enjoy it.
So your debut book, Black Sheep, is out next summer, is stories of terror and hope through your lived experience of British rural racism and how running saved you. I mean, last year was a hard year, you know, with everything that happened with Black Lives Matter, the brutal death of George Floyd. And you said, you know, this was what spurred you on to write and come up with the idea of Black Sheep. So can you tell us a little bit about why you wanted to write this book?
Yeah, I mean, I am from a rural town in the UK, and I moved here when I was really young. And from the moment the earliest memory I have is of being subjected to physical and mental abuse and racism. Because I looked around and there was no one that looked like me. You know, I'm mixed race. I have always been racialized as Black. My dad is Black, my mother is white. And I really wanted to, when the murder of George Floyd happened in my town, we had a Black Lives Matter protest. And I, for years, had held in my heart and in my soul what I had gone through. And I just felt compelled to stand up and talk about my experience of experiencing racism living in a rural town. And for me, it really was just opened up this kind of Pandora's box of the trauma that I have experienced by living and being a person of color living in a rural town. And yeah, it's really been a journey, and it's been traumatic, and it's been joyful, and it's been traumatic again. And yeah, that's really what spurred me to kind of think about putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard.
Eyes to screen. So Black Sheep is a memoir, so you're writing it from your own personal perspective. And you know that even the title itself, Black Sheep, it refers to racism in rural Britain. I mean, we even spoke about this yesterday, you know, as a mixed race person, as someone from a minority background, often, you know, people don't assume that people that look like us can live in rural Britain. And so, you know, why was it so important for you to tell this story, to kind of, you know, tell people, hey, that I do live in rural Britain and this is my reality. This is what happens here.
I think what really made me want to tell this story is that growing up and experiencing all that I experienced and feeling like a black sheep, feeling so out of place and so lacking community, identity, even in my own family. As I said, my mother's white, my sister, although is mixed race, she's white presenting, so never experienced the racism. So even in my own family, I felt separate. I felt that kind of, where do I belong in this? And there was never, growing up, there was, in all the teenage magazines I read, in the library books that I read, in the books and stories, fiction and non-fiction I read, I never saw myself represented as a black person living in a rural community. And it's all I wanted, or I loved reading, and I loved my teenage magazines like Ms. and Jackie, but there was never anyone that looked like me that I could relate to. So really why I wanted to write this book is I just wanted to connect, even if just with one person, even if it's just with one woman or boy or adult or child that has experience of living in a rural community and feeling othered. I wanted to write this book for them to say, you're not alone. You know, we are here, we are experiencing this stuff, and together we can get through it. I am surviving it, and I think thriving.
Yes, thriving.
And I just wanted to share that. So as well as the trauma stories, as well as the stories about what I experienced, there's also stories of hope. There's also stories of, and this is what I've gone on to do.
Absolutely. And going on to what you've gone on to do, you know, you, first of all, you've stood up to the people in your town, which takes a lot of courage and a lot of energy as well. But also you have gone on to run ultra marathons, you know, graced covers of magazines. And I'd love to talk to you about, using this energy, using this trauma, using all of these experiences to really, you know, use it positively. You know, you ran the Marathon des Sables and came in as the 8th UK woman. That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I have always suffered with, I say suffered, but I've always lived with depression and anxiety. Even since I was a small child, I would always fear being happy because I always felt that there was something around the corner that would steal that joy. So therefore I could never fully experience it. And after the birth of my 4th child, I experienced quite dark and severe bouts of postnatal depression. And my doctor told me to do something for myself, and why not try running? And I hated running. I hated it. But a couple of years later, I started to really see the benefits of using running to manage my mental health. And in 2018, for my 40th birthday, I made it my mission that I was going to run what's classified as the toughest foot race on earth, the Marathon des Sables, which is the 6-day ultra marathon in the Sahara Desert. And I went through all sorts, I talk about it in the book, but I went through so many different emotions, could not get my stove to light for food, wondered why the hell I was there, thought I was going to die. But in the darkness, I found the strength, and I found I was able to dig really deep into my inner power, my inner survivor mode, that look, I've got through much worse things than running up a massive sand dune in the Sahara Desert. I can do this. And I think I'm nothing special. If I can do that, you can do that. And I just wanted to really represent for women, for mothers, for grandmothers. I'm a grandmother of 3. And for anyone who has ever been told, you can't do that, this is not for you. So in the triumph stories, I just really want to touch people, and I want to reach out to them, and I want to say, look, if I can do it, you can do it, because I am not Superwoman.
I mean, I'm just looking at all the comments and everyone's calling you a superwoman. So you are, you're so inspiring. That is Sabrina. Like, I'm so excited, and this is it's going on my list. You know, I've pre-ordered it and everyone needs to read it. So I'm so excited, and yeah, you're incredible. So everyone put it on your reading list for 2022.
Thank you, Jessica. Thanks so much.
Sabrina.
I'm Rebecca Waite, and I'm going to read from my novel, I'm Sorry You Feel That Way. It's about 2 sisters, Alice and Hannah, saint and sinner, and their fractured relationship both with each other and with their controlling mother, Celia. As adults, Alice and Hannah, both in their different ways, try to break free from their mother's suffocating influence and from the legacy of the family catastrophe that's shaped everything. It's a book about the toxic inheritance of family dysfunction and how thin the line can be between comedy and tragedy. The extract I'm going to read is from near the start of the novel, and it focuses on the mother, Celia, when she was a child herself. Sallow and unprepossessing. Here is Celia at 8, unloved and unlovely. Her nose is beaky, and her eyes are a touch too deep set, though their colour, a bright clear green, is admittedly striking. Her skin has an unhealthy yellowish tinge. Some people grow into their looks, Celia's mother tells her, which perplexes Celia because, at 8, she has still not worked out that she is not pretty. It is true that people often comment on the beauty of Celia's older sister, Katie. They never seem to mention Celia's looks, but somehow Celia has never inferred anything from this. It helps that Katie is pretty in a very obvious way, with golden hair and blue eyes, a golden lustre to her skin too, like the statue of a goddess. People, Celia has observed, are not very imaginative, and will, in almost every case, say what is obvious, not what is interesting. Celia is a quiet and watchful child, and teachers find her unsettling. She rarely laughs. She's rather intense, her form teacher writes in her report. Celia believes this is a compliment. It is Katie, aged 11, who breaks the news to Celia about her appearance, shortly before Celia's 9th birthday. "You're ugly," Katie tells her flatly. Everybody knows it. I heard Mummy saying it to Daddy, but she didn't say ugly. She said unprepossessing. I looked it up in the dictionary, and it means ugly. Katie does not speak with malice, but in that expressionless manner characteristic of her. If she had seemed to intend it cruelly, Celia might not have taken it so much to heart. In her bedroom, she studies her own tear-stained face in the mirror. Unprepossessing, yes. She can see it now.
A wonderful reading from Rebecca there. She's very, very talented author. So moving on, we're excited now to welcome the amazing Felicity Hayward, who is a curve model, social media influencer, and a body positive activist. She was one of the first plus size models in the UK pushing for size diversity, and she's posed for publications from Vogue to Glamour. Felicity now focuses her time on promoting her global digital campaign and body positive movement, Self-Love Brings Beauty. Felicity is talking to Nana Echimbong, a fashion and celebrity stylist with over a decade's experience in the industry and has the best sounding job in the world, which is as a shopping editor and celebrity stylist at Fabulous magazine. Felicity and Nana, you are so welcome.
Hello. Where's my girl? Can everyone?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Classic Zoom. Yeah, really excited about this, Felicity. So that was a great introduction to kind of like your career, which up until now has mainly been modeling and being an activist for body positivity. I want to know what inspired you to write this book.
Well, I actually wrote this book in lockdown.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my first time writing a book, and for me, I have been modelling for 10 years. So I was one of the first plus size models of my age in the UK, and I didn't ever think that this career even existed. So I was actually training to be a primary school teacher, specialising in autism, and somehow managed to get scouted in an East London pub dancing to Diana Ross and became the UK's first plus size model back in 2008, I think it was 2008 when 2011. And I just basically wanted to tell my story, because I think a lot of people, you can read my bio, find out everything you want about me on Google, but the actual process of my life as a model, as a plus size woman, through, you know, growing up curvy, to being at school curvy, being different, to then suddenly becoming a model in an industry that you never thought you could even be slightly involved in. So it's kind of my memoir of what has happened throughout my career, but then also giving you an insight into the industry that people are too scared to talk about. So, you know, the toxic side of it, the bad things that I've seen happen, the fake body positivity movement, which is happening at the moment. Everyone wants to be body positive, everyone wants to be on a trend, but actually there is a lot of things that go on within the industry that aren't great and actually need to be spoken about. So it's kind of got sort of part of my life, how I got into it, all the tips and tricks, a hell of a load of self-love, which is something as well, like during lockdown, that we all really needed. And I was sort of writing a book and teaching myself more things, you know, that we needed to focus on ourselves. So yeah, the book's called Does My Bum Look Big in This?
Embrace your bum looking big in something. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's just the whole idea with, I thought when I was younger, you know, people would always be like, oh, in the sort of the 90s, whatever, the kind of the quote, does my bum look big in this? You would, because of the way society was back then, you'd want to hide your figure. Curvy was not popular, you know, at all. So if you wanted to hide it, so the quote, does my bum look big in this, you would want to like make sure that you were covering yourself. Whereas you turn it to now, does my bum look big in this?
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Bums cannot be big enough. So it's kind of exploring the idea of body positivity, what it was, what it is now, and what it hopefully will become.
That leads me on to my next question. Like, what do you want to achieve with this book? Like, it just sounds fantastic already, but what do you hope people get from it?
Honesty into an industry that people probably only can see a small percentage of. The industry is amazing and how it's kind of changed, but there is a lot of things that really still need to be done. So I hope it's kind of an honest way, talking about things that I think some models and influencers would be too frightened to talk about.
Okay, and what are you most excited about for this book to be out in the world?
Honestly, I'm really excited for my nan to read it. I don't know if that's
so cute.
Yeah, she's been a huge inspiration for me writing this book. She's just like the most sassiest 90-year-old Sagittarius, like yourself, babe. And she is just my fashion icon and queen, and has always taught me to be unapologetically myself. So obviously my nan, but I think as well, I kind of wrote the book with my little sister in mind, because she grew up in an industry where, in society where social media has just started. So she's 18 now, but you know, she had a phone at 13 and was using social media platforms at that age. So it was kind of written with her in mind, and how it's, I mean, when we were younger, I had a Nokia 3310.
I know, just playing Snake, like that was
we had no sort of idea of what was going on within the world. You sort of only saw the gossip magazines in Woolworths of people sort of body shaming, whereas now everything is so accessible. So it's kind of, someone's put, I love Snake. Snake was fantastic. But it's kind of showing people that actually I want it to be a resource for people to look at when they are feeling low, when they are feeling down, and they aren't just seeing the magazines body shaming, but they're seeing a lot online. I want it to be sort of somewhere where they can journal and write and listen and absorb all of this.
Okay, we're coming, I've got to wrap this up quite quickly, but my last thing, like obviously I'm a stylist, I know how difficult it is to kind of get curve and plus size like samples for people. What do you want to talk about in this book kind of relating to that?
Well, there's a lot of stuff in the book regarding BMI, which I think is an outdated method. A lot of stuff about vanity sizing, and a lot of stuff about how the high street is lying to us. within sizing. So there's lots of things in there which will hopefully you'll be able to read, take away from, and just understand that owning your power, owning your size is the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I just think, obviously, it sounds like it's a really good book for kind of like teenage girls, but I also think it's a really good book just generally, like widespread for everyone, like you say, to kind of learn about how they relate to themselves with their bodies, and not kind of, yeah, just look into BMI, and don't get hung up on sizes. That's always one of my biggest tips as a stylist as well. Just go on how it feels and how it fits. So I can't wait to read it.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. See you later.
Bye.
Hello, word of mouth bestsellers. I'm Michael Shore, creator of TV shows like Parks and Recreation and The Good Place, and I'm here to tell you about my new book, How to Be Perfect, a foolproof guide to making the correct moral decision in any situation you ever encounter, anywhere on earth, forever. This book is essentially my understanding of moral philosophy and ethics, but it's told in a fun, humorous, conversational way instead of a boring, headache-inducing homework kind of a way. We all want to be good people. Well, hang on. Most of us want to be good people, although I live in America. Some of us want to be good people, but it's not always easy to define what a good person actually is. And even if you want to be a good person, it's not always easy to figure out how to accomplish that. Every day we make hundreds of decisions: what to do, what to eat, where to drive, what to watch on TV. All of those choices involve making ethical decisions, whether we care to think about them or not. This book uses 2,400 years of philosophical thinking to give us some tools that hopefully make the job of being a good person on Earth a little bit easier. Essentially, I hope to boil down the whole confusing morass of existence on Earth into 4 basic questions. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? Is there something we could do that's better? Why is it better? That's moral philosophy and ethics in a nutshell, and it's something I got really interested in when I was making The Good Place, because I believe that we owe it to ourselves to learn how to answer those questions so we don't screw everything up all the time. We share this planet with other people. Our actions affect those people. If we care about people, we owe it to ourselves to figure out how to make the best decisions we can. So this book explains the theories of some of history's greatest philosophers, what they say, what they ask of us, how they claim to make us better if we follow their rules. Then we apply what we've learned to some very gnarled and tangled issues that face us all in this modern world, like, can we enjoy art made by problematic people? And can I break a rule if I think the rule is dumb? And by the time it's done, I guarantee that you, the reader, will be totally and completely perfect. And if you're not, that is 100% your fault, and you will not get your money back. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the book.
I love that book. I would say it is essential reading if you are a fan of The Good Place, but also if you have a moral conscience and a sense of humour. Now, earlier this year, we were delighted to announce that we are now the publishers of the insanely talented Lucy Diamond, Sunday Times bestseller, a wonderful author, and trust me on this, the best person to be stuck in a terrible, terrible hotel with. That's a story for another time. And she'll be speaking to the equally brilliant Nina Patel, who is the book editor of Prima and also a consultant on BBC Two's Between the Covers. She's also the absolute best person to talk to about books, and the industry is very lucky to have her championing us. So without further ado, over to you, ladies.
Thank you. Hi, Nina. Oh, hello. Are you on mute? Oh, Nina, I can't hear you. Oh, Nina, you need to unmute yourself. Oh. Oh dear.
No, Nina, I don't know what's happening. Having had our check and it was all fine. For some reason, we can't hear you. Even though I know you're not on mute, but for some reason we can't hear you. I wonder, have you got headphones on? Have you got anything plugged in, like a headphone jack? Is that the problem? No. Okay. Well, do you know what? Nina, I'm gonna chat with Lucy while Joe and Litfon, the tech team, try and work out what might be going on. And hopefully we'll see you in a minute. But if not, it's me and Lucy. That's fine. We won't tell everybody.
We've got this. We can do it.
We've got this. We won't tell everybody the terrible hotel story. That's definitely for another time.
That's secret.
So anything could happen, which is, well, you know how much I love it. Why don't you tell everybody what it's about?
Okay, anything could happen is about, there's a mother and daughter road trip at the heart of the story. And it's the action starts when Eliza, the 18-year-old daughter, discovers that her dad is not the man she thinks he is. So she confronts her mum, she wants some answers. And Lara, her mum, has to confess that, yes, she has been keeping it a secret, but there's a reason why. But Eliza is just so desperate to meet her dad. She's 18, she wants to know who she is. So she demands that they go and meet him immediately. Now, Ben, the dad in question, lives in Cambridge. He's got no idea that he's got this 18-year-old daughter. So the two of them drive down from Scarborough together, turn up unannounced and break the news. He is married, he's settled down, he's got his own business in Cambridge. So it's a massive shock to him when they arrive. And the book is really about second chances, and it's about wanting things and then discovering perhaps it's harder work than you thought. Oh, is Nina there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Can we hear you, Nina?
Oh, Nina.
Can you hear me?
Yes. We're just finishing off hearing about, you did it. Very smooth, no problem at all. We're just finishing hearing from Lucy about the book, and we were talking about kind of that sliding door moment, the second chances that are such an important part of this book. Sorry, Lucy, over to you. I will.
Thank you, Bethan. Very well done.
I will just say at the beginning of this, when we joined and Bethan was talking to us, I did say how awful my IT skills were, and I think I've just proved it as well. So I've just managed to throw the questions on the floor as well. But yeah, I loved the sliding doors moment. And I don't know what Bethan was saying because I signed out and then came back in again. But the start of the story with Lara and Ben is just so lovely and so romantic, and obviously leading to that sliding doors moment about what's going to happen or what could happen. So where was that inspiration? Where did that come from?
Well, I've always been fascinated with that whole sliding doors thing, because so many aspects of our lives, you know, we've all got to those crossroads where you think, oh, which path shall I take? Shall I try for this job? Shall I move here? Shall I go traveling? Shall I go out tonight and possibly fall madly in love with the person who's meant to be for me? So we've all had those crossroad moments. And I think the minute you make one decision and go down one path, there's this other path that's not taken, that's like a parallel life. And Lara, well, I think lots of the characters in the story have these moments where they wonder about the path not taken, and is it too late to try again? So there's lots of sort of like random things that happen to characters that change their lives completely in the book. There's lots of chance encounters. You know, when Lara and Ben first meet, it's totally by chance that they're in the same bar in New York, totally by chance that, you know, she does something to draw attention to herself accidentally and they meet at all. So that really fascinates me.
And I love the idea. This isn't a spoiler at all, because, you know, it does kind of say in the blurb as well that obviously Lara has a daughter, and she finds out at the age of 18 that her father isn't really her father. So this whole world that is opened up to both of them, and Lara trying to protect Eliza, but Eliza wanting so much to know the truth. So she decides to go and hunt for her father. And I just really love that, but I liked that then Lara wanted to kind of go along with her as well. And was that important to you for your characters that they did it as mother and daughter together rather than just Eliza going off by herself?
Yeah, I think so. And I think Lara was desperate to sort of get in there quickly as well herself, because she and Ben, they had this like amazing night in New York together, but then there was miscommunication. They've not seen each other since. They both feel like they did the right thing. They both feel quite annoyed about the other person. So Lara was very keen to get her side of the story in first and not have Eliza just blundering in. And also, you know, I love dynamic between mother and daughter as well. I love stories about mother. I've got 2 girls, and you know, I just find it really interesting, that whole relationship. So I thought as well she'd be, you know, they live in Scarborough as well, so it's quite a long drive. So practical reasons as well, she wanted to make sure Eliza wasn't going to just, you know, have a terrible journey, get lost, get stranded, get stuck, you know, all these things. So yeah, they go together, and it's slightly forced upon Lara, but you know.
And one of the things I loved, I mean, I know I was very lucky to join you for lunch a couple of weeks ago. Oh, yes. And we were talking about, I mean, not only it's a beautiful book about relationships and families and second chances. I love the settings in the book so much. I really want Ben to come and draw me one of those drawings.
Oh, me too. Yes.
When you guys read the book, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But, you know, Scarborough, so I want you to talk a little bit about that. But also, you know, you've got Edinburgh and Cambridge and New York, which I understand you were hoping to visit to get some kind of inspiration, but a little pandemic got in the way. So why Scarborough, first of all?
Oh, well, I really love North Yorkshire. I just think it's such a gorgeous part of the country. I had a holiday, well, I went to university in Leeds, so I love Yorkshire anyway. And we had a holiday in Helmsley, North Yorkshire, and it was just, everywhere we went was so gorgeous. Scarborough, the beaches are just fantastic. And so I thought, oh, well, maybe if I always try and set my books in different places. And I want to set my books in like places I really want to go to again, or for the first time, just so that I've got an excuse to go back. So I was like, oh, you know, if I set my book in Scarborough, I get to go and, you know, spend a bit of time there again, which would be really nice. So yeah, everywhere in the book is beautiful. There's Cambridge too, which, you know, is another absolutely gorgeous city. I've seen yes to Helmsley in the comments. Yay. Helmsley is so nice. And then New York, I was all set. I thought, well, I must go do my research. I must have a little jaunt to New York. But of course, I couldn't go anywhere. So it's all on, sadly, on Street View. But it was actually quite a nice bit of escapism to sort of travel around through my characters. And in a time where nothing was happening because we were all locked down, it was so brilliant to give my characters the agency to travel and, you know, make things happen for themselves and get into all sorts of scrapes. So yeah, I did it vicariously through my characters at least.
And it is such a wonderful book. So thank you for joining us. I know it's your 17th book. Plus,
it is, yeah.
You on Google how many children's books you've written as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Nina. I'm glad we got there in the end.
When they read it.
And thank you, everybody watching, commenting. It's just so nice to be amidst a group of book lovers, even if we are all virtual.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Very smooth technical thing. And yeah, Lucy's book is as wonderful as it sounds, I'm pleased to say. Now, before I move on to the next thing, just a very quick reminder from me that this book that we're talking about, which is Bonnie Wright's book, is still under wraps until the weekend. So please don't share anything from this evening about it just yet. So Bonnie Wright, the author. Now, she wanted to be here in person to do this interview. But there's this little film she made. I don't know if you'd have heard of it, Harry Potter, something like that. And there's some kind of anniversary going on. And she's got to do some kind of filming for it. So she couldn't quite make it. Fine, fair enough. I mean, many of you, of course, will know Bonnie as Ginny Weasley in the Harry Potter films and also as a director and an activist. And she made time in what's quite a busy schedule at the moment to speak to Sarah Shafi, a journalist and editor, about her new book, Go Gently. So here is our last segment of the evening, Bonnie and Sarah.
Hi Bonnie, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Lovely. Look, let's start with just in a sentence, and I know a sentence can be quite difficult, but in a sentence, how would you describe Go Gently?
Yeah, sure. It's a challenge when you've been writing something and you've been in your internal world, suddenly kind of sharing what this book is about. It's often hard to get into a concise moment, but I guess it's basically a very kind of, it's not autobiographical, but it very much is in line with what I have been doing and what kind of curiosities and sort of interests I've been taking in the climate movement, and sort of how I can be doing things at home, individual actions at home in my home day-to-day life, to have a bit more of a kind of tangible and empowered relationship to the climate movement. I think we can often feel so overwhelmed and like nothing we do will ever make a difference. And I really wanted to make sure these kind of more front-facing, larger actions I was taking with organizations like Greenpeace, I was still weaving into my day-to-day life. Like, I didn't sort of go to a climate march. I came home and I felt like my internal environment wasn't reflecting what I was concerned about in my larger environment.
What was it that made you decide a book was the sort of the right kind of medium for you to talk about all of this stuff?
Yeah, I think for me, so much of this work has predominantly been through social media, maybe the odd interview, which I have loved, and I'm so grateful to have the platform I have. But it felt like there wasn't one place that I could really bring all this kind of moments of different things into some kind of through line and some narrative and concentration. And I think the beauty of a book I was so drawn to is just how it's an object we each can kind of have our own relationship to as the reader. We can each read a story in a book in an entirely different way. And that was really what the book is about too. We all need to have our own unique relationship to our environment and to the action we're taking. So I thought that a book both reflected that kind of intimate relationship I was kind of exploring in terms of the intimate relationship of our home and our habits. And I thought it would really challenge me as well to really focus my energy into, a piece of work that was a visual piece of work as well as a written piece of work. So I never ever thought I would have a book or be an author of a book. It's definitely been something that's been a surprise to me, which has been nice, just that kind of challenge. And it's just been an amazing reminder to me as well, the importance of the action that we take offline. And I think books can really be a reminder of that.
You mentioned that it's not autobiographical, though you do talk about your relationship with the climate movement. And I'd love for you to talk just a tiny bit about what it was that sort of pulled you firmly into the climate movement and sort of led you to all the various steps that you're taking, of which Go Gently is obviously a part.
Yeah, I think without realizing it, probably from quite a young age, I was someone who loved to take part, whether that was at school, different things that you do for charities and showing up to, baking a cake for Comic Relief, to kind of getting people at school to sign some petition to change something in your school. I think that idea of kind of action and stepping up was definitely kind of something that I was like as a child and through my adult life. And I think, I think within my family relationship too, we were always people who, my mum would always be mending things in terms of clothing or making things. If we needed a pillowcase, she would make it rather than first assume maybe to buy it. And then also in terms of food, we very much tried to not buy beyond kind of what we needed in terms of wasting our food. So there was that kind of early on, mentality that I probably didn't even know had a connection to, the environment and the climate. But then later on, I would say when I was, I guess in my mid to late teens, I was someone who really loved going, walking or camping or enjoying kind of water activities like surfing. And, slowly just in my small lifetime, I was beginning to see just how polluted, particularly the oceans, were becoming. And my first real gateway and entrance into the climate movement was very much ocean health and single-use plastics. And that brought me into working with Greenpeace, both in the UK and the US. And
that experience and meeting those campaigners who dedicate their entire life to kind of changing policy, kind of going up to corporations and really challenging the way that they exist, really just inspired me. I was like, wow, these people are doing this all the time. And I left trips and times with them just coming home, and I was like, I need to do this all day, every day, and I need to show up. So it was really working with Greenpeace and those individuals behind that organization that inspired my commitment, I would say. And as I said, I did these kind of bigger trips with them, and then I would come home and I would look at just the materials and things around me, and I would be like, there is a choice for me maybe to use my creativity to change that habit, or rethink how I consume things, how I throw things away, how I look after what I already own. So yeah, that's kind of my journey to it.
Yeah. There can often, I think, be a lot of pressure on individuals to do kind of the right thing for the climate movement, but you advocate in the book for a really personal approach to making changes. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you think it's the most effective path for people?
Yeah, sure. So, really in the name of Go Gently is kind of really the tone of which I'm kind of hoping to inspire people to do and to take action. I think it's the affirmative kind of go forth and do it, and then the gentle way in which to approach that. Because I think if we feel bad about ourselves, or we beat ourselves up about what we're not doing, or we kind of keep saying that's not enough, it's not going to be sustainable, because we'll burn out, because we'll feel kind of bad, and we'll be exhausted. So I think a big thing for me was this idea: how can you take on action in a way that does fit your life? Because everyone has a very different ability to commit time to this, or maybe the accessibility that they have to certain things is going to be very varied. So for me, it's this gentle approach that kind of looks at the sort of mental health kind of intersection of the climate movement, and the anxiety that we can all feel around this topic. So it's kind of trying to, the title is a sort of reminder, I hope, as you're reading it, to, not get carried away with trying to implement everything at once. Like, a big thing that I did that was helpful was when I came home from these Greenpeace trips, and I was particularly looking at my sort of packaging, single-use packaging, I just looked at like my kitchen, and I started with the things within there, rather than trying to take on my entire home at once. So I think for everyone, we're all going to have things we're more uniquely interested in. For someone, it might be their clothing and looking at sort of fast fashion or materials. So maybe they start with their wardrobe.
How has your work around climate change kind of affected the way that you approach not just your sort of your home or kind of physical spaces, but your work and your relationships? Like, have there been unexpected kind of positives that you just did not think about before you started this?
I think with all things, it's like, you look at your sort of friends and colleagues and different things that you maybe interact with around you. And it is always such a nice surprise when people, not from you necessarily telling them directly about certain things you're doing, but just by kind of influence of being around people, we do shift and change things. If we see someone doing something and they look like they are enjoying it, maybe we try that too, and we share that story. So it's been really nice when friends have been like, oh, I saw you did this and I had a go at it and it's been really great and I tried this, and not by me, as I say, directly telling them to do that, but just a kind of ripple of kind of influence. And then another thing for me, I mean, aside from this book and the kind of advocate work I do, the stuff in film I do, obviously the film industry is can be an incredibly wasteful industry in terms of building sets, breaking them down, having costumes, and then what do you do with all those costumes? So it's been really interesting to sort of bring those questions into the film industry, whether that's a production I'm working on and asking them questions before I show up about what they're committing to this issue, or in my own films that I've been making, independent little short films and music videos, like how can I try as much as I can to bring these habits into that kind of work and job space.
Just a final quick question. You interview lots of people in the book as well, and you ask your interviewees, a lot of them, what gives them hope for the future. So I'd love for you to just end by saying what it is that gives you hope for the future.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. I thought about that a lot when I was asking those people. I think for me, a big thing that gives me hope is people are just less afraid to kind of seek transparency behind governments, behind corporations and different things. I think there's an incredible kind of fearlessness and fierceness and courage that a lot of young people particularly have in the climate movement. They're not afraid to stand up and say, that a lot of these, like COP26, like so many empty promises, and people are not afraid to stand up. And I think that's just incredible that these young people can have such courage. And I think it also shows a lot of vulnerability, those kind of actions. And I think, in terms of how we move forward in governance and power, I think really the best thing we can all have is that kind of vulnerability to be ready to show up and admit wrongdoings, but then be like, okay, let's use our creativity and think of new things. So I'm really inspired by, that courageous seeking transparency and calling people out. It's definitely new to a lot of us and as older generations witnessing that type of kind of action.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Bonnie. And I can't wait for more people to read Go Gently.
Thank you. Me too.
That is a really lovely and inspiring way to end the evening. I say end the evening, but it's not over yet because I'm going to talk about our no-show giveaway. So this is Beth's 4th book, and possibly her best yet. I'm just saying it. We'll see what you guys think. It's out in April 22, and it follows 3 women who are all stood up on Valentine's Day by the same guy. As you know, nobody does characters quite like Beth, and this book is no exception. This time the story is told through the eyes of 3 wonderful women, Siobhan, Miranda and Jane. So hang on, we've got a proof for each of them. Jane, this is Miranda, and this is Siobhan. So we are going to be giving away one of each of these tonight. But to decide who will get them, we're going to need a little bit more info on you. Are you a Siobhan, fiery and passionate, or a Jane, kind yet guarded, or Miranda, adventurous and trusting? We've got a no-show personality quiz for you all to take. The link should be dropping into the chat box right now. So to enter, take the quiz, find out which of the women you are most like, fill in the details, and we'll pick 3 winners from the entrants that we get this evening, and we'll get in touch with you via email. I'm so sorry, this is a UK only giveaway, and it closes at midnight tonight. So we overran, but I hope you agree that we've heard from some brilliant authors and had some fantastic interviews. Thank you to them, and most of all, thank you to you guys for making time to be with us. We really appreciate it, and we will see you very soon. Thank you.